Breaking today, fury over King Charles revising a definition of monarchy that orders protection of a multi-faith nation. Now, you know, Brits have been labelled crazy things. Like far right or conspiracy theorists for being concerned about the erosion, the very obvious erosion of this country's Christian heritage. But you certainly can't accuse those people of being paranoid anymore. Because under this new revised definition of the monarchy that was slipped out last week, virtually ignored by the mainstream media, King Charles's official role will be to protect the multi-faith nation. Protect the multi-faith nation. Oh, yes, okay, an Islamic nation. Sir, is that what you mean? As GB News reported, the king will protect the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. That is the new definition of his official role. Buckingham Palace unveiled this significant revision with the newly released Sovereign Grant Report, describing His Majesty as the protector of faith across Britain's diverse religious landscape. I thought he was the head of the Church of England. I thought he was the defender of Christianity. But the annual financial review of the royal household contains fresh terminology, positioning the monarch as someone who safeguards religion throughout the nation. According to the document, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. This reform represents a notable evolution in how the palace formally characterises the sovereign's constitutional and spiritual responsibilities. The previous year's report, so this has been an actual change, characterised the king under his head of nation duties as the head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. Now, the king's titles date back to the reign of Henry VIII, after he was granted the title Defender of the Faith in 1521 by Pope Leo X. And rightly there is outrage about this, with the royal grift asking, how is everyone feeling about this? As an Anglican, this doesn't sit right with me. Christians should not be forced to accept Islamic faith woven into the foundation of Western society. This is too far. It is incompatible. This multi-faith acceptance messaging will spread to the United States and into my Anglican church because he is still the head of the Church of England. Only king we should be worshipping is Jesus. Mary Harrington argued that if Charles's faith is not Christianity but global replacism, he should be disposed. And GB News host Emma Tremble doubled down, saying that this is now a bona fide constitutional crisis. Independent media sensation Winston Marshall, the ex-Mumford & Sons star, said, hard to understate just how radical a departure this is from the 1,100-year tradition of our nation and antithetical to our founding. Anti-Islam activist Kelly J. Keane raged, the king is not defender of all faiths, he is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and defender of the faith. He does not have the right to quietly rewrite the job description of the crown to suit modern fashion. This country's institutions should mean something. Indeed, legally, it does seem that there are issues with how this has been introduced, how this has just been slipped in, without any public debate whatsoever. Top lawyer Stephen Barrett explained, you can't change the Constitution by some words in the sovereign grant. He is the defender of the faith and head of the Church of England. Those are his obligations, his duty. A king who will not do his duty is no king. And Lauren the Insider was in particular despair, writing, I'm absolutely heartbroken. It is now not safe to raise my daughters in England. Our last remaining protection was it being a constitutionally Christian country. I am speechless. But once she recovered her speech, and thank goodness she did, Lauren the Insider gave us the lowdown.
Has King Charles sparked a new controversy over the future of the British monarchy? Fresh criticism from some commentators has ignited debate over recent developments involving the monarchy and interfaith engagement. Some critics argue these changes represent a significant departure from long-standing royal traditions, while others say they reflect the king's long expressed commitment.
Actually means. Watch.
How does this impact our safety? There is a lot of protection within our constitutionally Christian country, but we all know we're in the middle of an Islamic takeover. I've got the bish here, I've got the receipts, and by the end of this episode, you will understand exactly what has just happened to the Church of England and why nobody will talk about this in an unfiltered way within the mainstream media. Okay, let's be precise about what has changed because precision matters here. The Sovereign Grant Report is the royal household's annual financial and operational document. It is not tabloid gossip, it's not a leak, it is the official palace description of what the monarch does and what his role is. Last year's report described the king under his head of nation duties as head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. The new report, published late last week, reads, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. Same document, different language.
And of course, Lauren believes there is even a chance King Charles has converted to Islam.
Because if he cannot put Christianity front and centre, then what he is doing is he is over-amplifying an ideology that many people feel does not want to assimilate and does not want to integrate as a political ideology. And critically, don't forget, before his coronation, there was a significant public debate about whether Charles would change Defender of the Faith to Defender of Faiths, the plural form encompassing all religions. He chose at the coronation to keep the traditional wording. He kept his oath publicly in Westminster Abbey. What changed? Not the legal title, but the palace's own operational definition of what that title means in practice. And that is a very different kind of move.
And Bishop Karen H. Dewa, who has been desperately calling on the king to affirm his 100% support for Christianity, is not happy.
Sharia law has no place in our society. There are no other religious bodies that have their own courts. The Church of England is bound by canon law. The Church of Wales is bound by canon law. We don't have canon courts as a result of that are actively operating in direct opposition to the government's legislated laws and the law of this land. You don't see that from the Jewish community or the Sikh community, the Buddhist community, Hindu community. It is only the Islamic community, and it is completely unacceptable.
And the problem is that this news has now been overshadowed, of course, by all of the will they, won't they drama about whether Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are going to come to the UK. Lauren thinks that's a plan.
I can tell you exactly why they did it this way. They buried it, they released it and hoped that people wouldn't notice. What they wanted was for this news to go under the radar. And then the minute the Telegraph picked it up, you now see stories coming out. Meghan Markle isn't coming to the UK. Will she, won't she? This is all done to distract you, so you don't pay attention. Blink and you miss it.
Leo Curse, I mean, there have been huge concerns over whether Charles is actually committed to Christianity. And what I think is most disturbing about this is that there's been no debate. It was just slipped out. And obviously all of the talk was about Buckingham Palace and the fact that Charles and William are never going to reside there. Then all of the talk was about Harry and Meghan are going to be lent Buckingham Palace. And obviously that is important, that matters. But this one is so fundamental, Leo. And actually, there deserves to be a real discussion and there deserves to be scrutiny on what King Charles is actually suggesting here. Is he saying, as our monarch, that the UK is no longer a Christian country? Because that is terrifying and chilling to many of us. We're building a community that isn't afraid to speak up. If that sounds like you, hit that subscribe button and join us. Your voice matters here. Welcome to Outspoken.
Yeah, I know for some people in Britain these days, they might think that Christianity is an anachronism and it's, it doesn't have any bearing on our lives. But I mean, a couple of hundred years ago, this would have been, people would have been beheaded and heads put on spikes for this kind of radical departure. I mean, you remember how much of a radical departure it was when the monarch left the Catholic Church. So this is a huge. I mean, this is momentous. It feels like a submission to a more aggressive, dominating culture that's rapidly expanding and is taking over not just the Middle East, but swathes of Africa and Asia. And now Europe as well. And we can see when Islam reaches, around about 10, 15, 20% in a country, then you start getting real problems. So we're not at that level yet, but we're not too far off it. And also with the amount of appeasement and acquiescence, we don't approach Islamism the same way that somewhere like Israel approaches Islamism. So 20% of Israel is Muslim, and obviously Israel is surrounded by Muslim countries that keep trying to wipe it out every decade or so. They all get together and try to wipe Israel out. So Israel has had to become very tough at managing the threat from Islamism, not just from outside its borders, but also the 20% of its population that are Muslims. They've had bus bombings, terror attacks, armed insurrections, all the rest of it. And we're not at that point yet. We've taken the path of acquiescence and appeasement every step of the way. But we are getting to that point. It's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be many more attempted beheadings or terror attacks that we're going to put up with. And to see our king turn around and be like, oh, I'm not Christian anymore. I'm not the Christian leader. Oh no, this is for all faiths. This is for everyone. Let's just roll over and let anybody who wants to. Everybody has claim to this land. Man, this is disgusting. King Arthur must be spinning in his grave. We used to have proper English kings, Lionhearts, that went over and fought against the spread of Islamism, fought in the Crusades, which everybody is taught were a despicable aggression. They were actually defensive wars. I know for a fact that our current king, he's not going to get on a horse with armor and a big sword and the English flag. No, he'd be, if he goes over there, it won't be to fight the spread of Islamism. It'll be as a fluffer for them.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, Leo, this weakness does seem to typify his reign, because while I do understand he is battling terminal cancer, the idea that he is giving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle the opportunity to have the keys to Buckingham Palace. I mean, I know it's not as serious as what we're discussing in terms of no longer defending Christianity, but it's like, come on, the optics of that. I don't want these two staying in Buckingham Palace, for God's sake. I want them staying at a travel lodge. Do you know what I mean? And all of this just plays into this idea, Leo, that Charles is weak. He is weak.
Yeah, absolutely. For him to roll over in front of them after how they've treated him. I mean, one of the things, I'm not a huge royalist. I'd be much more of a royalist if the royal family were like a royal family used to be. But But that's by the by. They've just become another institution that's become so woke and so wishy-washy, and just perpetuating and pushing all these communist ideologies to destroy Britain. But to roll over on a personal level, to roll over and kowtow to Harry and Meghan after how they've treated the royal family, I think they've done more damage to the royal family than Prince Andrew has. They publishing secrets, breaking that sort of contract that the public has with the royal family, the Queen understood so well. Never complain, never explain. And they've done the opposite. They've just been absolutely emotionally incontinent. And, I'm pretty sure they've lied and made stuff up as well. All these claims of racism in the royal family. And, when you see these examples of racism, like when Ngozi Fulani, an African woman, she turned up to Buckingham Palace, and she's born in Hackney, lives in Hackney or whatever. She turned up to Buckingham Palace, and somebody asked her, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "How racist!" It's like, did you see how she was dressed? She was literally dressed like Fred Flintstone. She was dressed like a character from the middle of the Congolese jungle in a Carry On film. She looked absolutely nonsensical. I wouldn't have been surprised if she'd ridden in on a hippo, like firing blow darts at people. Of course, people are going to ask where you're from if you're wearing, a leopard print miniskirt and Scary Spices beads. So I think if somebody, if they're complaining about